What's up, One Pride? Rachel Marie Sports here, back again for the Woodward Sports Network to talk about Detroit Lions preseason week 2. The final score did end up 20-26 as we were topped by the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh at Heinz Field. We're gonna talk a little bit about our backup quarterback situation, and then of course we're gonna roll through Roarin or Snorin to talk about who got us excited and who had us wanting to go to sleep early. So let's get to it. First, let's touch on this backup quarterback situation. And I've got a little bit of a comparison here for you. They had Tim Boyle out there first once again, and he ended up 7 of 15 for just 44 yards. He took off to rush and ended up being stuffed for the loss of a yard, no scores, and had a 53.5 passer rating when he left the game. In my opinion, Boyle takes just a bit too long to warm up. He kind of hits his stride towards the end of his reps, but it's just too slow. And he's made some really poor passing decisions there in the beginning of the game, missing wide open receivers and just not really rolling through his progression, throwing a little bit too far or a little bit too far behind his receivers. Then on the other hand, you had David Blau out there who ended up 12 of 17 for 143 yards and a touchdown. He also rushed twice for 26 yards, showing his mobility outside of the pocket. Maybe he's been training with his Olympian wife and that's helping him out in that regard. I can't tell you what is going on in his training process, but what I do know is that he steps up and immediately looks a lot more comfortable in the pocket, and he's not afraid to leave it and run himself. So we'll see what Dan Campbell chooses to do at this position, but it is my humble opinion that David Blau is the backup quarterback for the Detroit Lions going into the regular season. Now let's hit it, guys. It's time for the Roarin or the Snorin. The Roarin are plays or players that stood out and got me hyped, and of course the Snorin are the plays or players that need improvement and make you want to snooze. Let's kick it off with the Roarin. First, we've got a repeat player from last week's Roarin list, and that's running back Craig Reynolds. He ended up with 5 carries for 29 yards and another score. This guy runs hard and he is trying to ensure that he is not a bubble player. I think he's doing an excellent job of that. He's putting it all out on the field, and this coaching staff is going to have to think very hard about who they want to have in our running back room. Next up, we've got Tom Kennedy, who has shown us that he is a reliable receiving option out there. This game, he had 4 receptions for 61 yards with a 31-yard long. So he's showing us that he can be a deep threat. Moving to the defensive side of the ball, which I did not find overall to be roaring, I was impressed with corner AJ Parker. He ended up with 7 tackles, 2 for a loss, and a pass deflection. He was definitely bringing the energy in that secondary when not really many others were. Then I've got to give it to the rookie again. Derek Barnes is on fire, you guys. He ended up with 5 tackles, 1 for a loss, 1 sack, and 2 pass deflections. The Rook is leaving it all out there. He is a repeat on this list as well, and somebody that I really hope earns a starting job on this team. I just like his energy. Everything that he brings to the table so far has been impressive. And last but not least, I feel like he's gonna make the Roarin' list every single week this year. That's Mr. Jack Fox himself. Just an incredible punter, you guys. And he showed us that boot with a 70-yard long punt in last night's game. And we all know that we can't have the Roarin' without the Snorin'. And leading the way on the Snorin' list is Jahlani Tavai. I know I mentioned him last week. This week, it was a lot of the same. It looked at times like Tavai was running through quicksand. That's how slow he was getting to the spot. His ability to tackle is just weak. He misses the tackles that are right in front of him. And when you are on the bubble, as I believe he is, you are using preseason like a tryout. You've got to leave it all on the field, and I just don't see it with Tavai. The only way I see him taking a spot on this roster is because We do not have very much depth in that linebacker room, so they may need him as a depth piece, but I'm thinking he doesn't see the field unless he absolutely has to. More Snorin, the secondary in general outside of AJ Parker. To keep it short and sweet, they just weren't making the plays. Of course, I have to add to this list Tim Boyle. We did already go over his stats and why I believe David Blau should be the backup quarterback, but I've got him add him to the Snoring list. He just made some really bad throws there in the beginning of this game. And last but not least, to top off the Snoring list, these refs, man. Last week it was some missed calls. This week it was some seriously soft calls like that pass interference on Brashad Perriman. But, you know, they've got to get the practice in to throw all these flags on the Lions during the regular season, don't they? With all that to be said, just a reminder, it is still just preseason. It's a time to evaluate personnel. Let's not panic. It is still way too early, you guys. We are watching to see what they've got just as much as the coaches are, and we've got to have faith in this coaching staff to make the right decisions when it comes time for the regular season. As always, I'm interested to hear what you guys thought of last night's preseason game, so definitely either leave comments below or interact with me on Twitter. The tag there is @RachMarieSports, and of course, make sure you're following along with all of the Woodward Sports Network social media accounts for all things Detroit sports and more. Happy football season, you guys, and one pride.